Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our Thirsty 30 Kickoff Webinar. My committee and I are so excited to have you here and are looking forward to telling you all about our biggest fundraising campaign of the year. We hope you learn something new, gain inspiration and new ideas for fundraising, and get excited for Thirsty 30. Before we get into the details, however, we have a special guest here tonight to speak about the Thirst Project and the importance of working towards ending the global water crisis. Please give a warm welcome to immediate past District Governor Justin England.
Hi, everyone. Let me pull up my slides really quick. I am so excited to be here tonight talking with you all at the District Project webinar. I do want to give a quick warning. We're having some pretty weird weather here in the Seattle area. So if my Wi-Fi starts giving out, feel free to let me know in the chat or otherwise. But anyway. See, okay, did my share screen? Okay, let me get my share screen going. All right, awesome. You guys should be able to see my screen now. So my name is Justin. I'm so excited to be here. I'm 18 years old and I'm from Kent, Washington. For those of you who don't know me, I was a Key Club member for 4 years and I served as the district governor and also as a lieutenant governor and club officer. I'm here to tell you a little bit about the water crisis, what it is, what we can do to help end it here in PNW Club. And hopefully by the end of my presentation and by the end of this webinar that the District Project Committee is organizing, you'll be able to join us in what we're doing here at the Thirst Project. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but just to give a little bit of context, over 70% of our planet is made of water, but less than 1% of that is available to you and I in the form of fresh water for consumption. And so if you remember nothing else that I tell you today, something that I want you to walk away knowing is that globally over 600 million people on our planet don't have access to safe, clean drinking water. And 600 million is a huge number. It's hard to imagine anything on that scale. But just to give you a little bit of perspective, that's 1 in every 13 of us. People living in water scarce communities all around the world often have access to just 5 gallons of water per person per day. And if you're wondering what 5 gallons looks like, it's this right here. This yellow can is what people will use for all of their daily needs. And think about it, we use water for everything. We use it for cooking, for cleaning, for washing our dishes, for showering. We try and use all of this water for all of our daily needs. But people living in water scarce communities around the world access to all of the water that they could be using. While people around the world often have access to just 5 gallons of water per person per day, the average American will use upwards of 100. And waterborne diseases kill more people each year than AIDS and all world violence combined. Diarrhea alone is the second leading cause of death amongst children under the age of 5. Over 2,000 children die every day from diarrhea-related illnesses. 1 child dies every 90 seconds simply because they drank dirty water. And that's the equivalent of 3 jumbo jets crashing every single day nonstop. And if jumbo jets were crashing at that rate, we'd probably do something about it. We probably wouldn't fly on them, or we'd try and fix the mechanical error that was causing them to crash at that rate. Or simply we just find another way to get around. But because water scarcity isn't something that impacts many of our communities here in North America, it's not something that's at the forefront of what we see in the media or what we have in our daily conversations. And so we at the Thirst Project sought out to tell that story. I'm going to show you guys some photos from projects in the field at real communities where we've worked. And my challenge to you is this: to imagine what your life would look like if you didn't have access to a shower at home or a water fountain at school, and if every day you had to drink water that looks like this. Because people in water scarce communities around the world often drink out of open, protected water sources, things like ponds, rivers, streams, and lakes, things that are open and unprotected and shared with a variety of different animals. This first photo is from a village called Njonjani, which is home to about 400 people. And what you're looking at is something called an earth dam. Essentially, the community came together and they built this recessed pit, which is approximately 4 feet deep and is about the size of an average high school gymnasium. They pushed mud walls up against the sides of this pit to collect rainwater. And this became the water source for their entire community. It's open, it's unprotected, it's visibly contaminated, and it's shared with all different types of cattle that will both drink from it and defecate in it. And every day, this little girl would have to walk about 5 kilometers from her homestead to this water source just to collect water for her daily needs, for things like washing and drinking. And as a result of drinking this water, her community had a 26% rate of contracting schistosomiasis. And schistosomiasis is a parasite that is contracted from washing with or drinking contaminated water. It's incredibly painful. It's something that we spend a lot of time talking about at the Thirst Project because it's so common in these water scarce communities. It causes you to urinate blood and it increases the risk of contracting STDs. And so obviously there are these massive health problems that stem from drinking dirty water. But that's not the only issue that we face here at Thirst Project, because drinking water isn't the only problem. Collecting it also poses some really serious public health issues. Around the world, people in developing countries will use jerry cans to collect water. It's the yellow can that I showed you earlier. It's essentially the diesel version of the red gas cans that we use here. When you fill a 5-gallon jerry can with water, it weighs 44 pounds. And on top of that, the average distance that someone will travel to collect water is about 3.75 miles. And the task of collecting water tends to fall on women, or more frequently, children between the ages of 8 and 13. Think about it. Imagine being an 8-year-old walking with your jerry can to the nearest pond, stream, or river to collect water, filling it up, and then walking back home. That's 44 pounds of water hauled by you as an 8-year-old for miles and for hours each and every day. It's really insane to think about. And as you can imagine, from this, we've seen a variety of different health issues occurring, especially with carrying the weight over those distances in the heat. We've seen case after case of spinal and pelvic deformities, chronic fatigue, and oftentimes in women, we've also seen cases of spontaneous miscarriages, all as a result of carrying that heavy load of water over such long distances in the heat. So we've covered at this point that collecting the water and drinking the water pose some really serious public health risks. But sanitation and hygiene also pose some serious problems when it comes to water scarcity, because they are incredibly crucial for disease reduction. Even something as simple as bare skin contact with contaminated water, like what you're seeing here, can expose people to bacteria, fungal infections, and parasites like ringworm. Not only are kids and women walking long distances to collect water, they're also using the contaminated water for cleaning and washing as well. This is a photo of a woman in Colombia who contracted ringworm as a result of washing with dirty water. And here it's really easy to see the skin irritation caused on her arm by that parasite. We all have lots of naturally occurring bacteria in our body, things like staph, for example, that are incredibly easy to manage with basic soap and water, as long as they're in small amounts. However, if you don't have access to those resources, these bacteria can cause huge health problems. And I think that we all know right now how important it is to be washing our hands on a regular basis. When the coronavirus broke out around the world, we were reminded how important it is, because one of the easiest ways to stop the spread of contagious diseases is to practice hand washing at least daily. Clean water serves as the first line of defense for communities around the world in preventing the spread of disease. But without access to close, safe water, these communities are left so much more vulnerable to the spread of infectious diseases and illnesses. So in addition to drinking and collecting dirty water, washing with it is yet another huge issue, because sanitation and hygiene are incredibly crucial for disease reduction. But what we see here at the Thirst Project is that one well, when we're able to introduce a new well into a community, it's the difference between drinking water that looks like this and having access to water that looks like this. And we're really not doing anything super revolutionary here. All we're doing is going into communities, hiring local drillers with huge rigs that are able to drill deep about 200 or 300 feet into the ground. We tap into existing water tables, building freshwater wells to draw safe, protected water for people. And it's amazing to see the impact that this has in the community when we're able to build these wells. Disease rates consistently drop upwards of 80%. Child mortality rates consistently drop upwards of 90%. The children who used to have to walk miles, spend 8 hours a day going to get water for their households, don't have to do that anymore. And instead, they can reinvest that time in going to school and getting an education. And similarly, the women who may have had to walk up to 8 hours a day just to get water for their households don't have to do that anymore. And instead, they can invest that time building financial resources for their family, getting jobs, contributing. Water is such an essential lifeline for our communities. And so when we bring clean water to our communities around the world, it changes every aspect of daily life. Here at the Thirst Project, we were founded in 2008 when just 7 college students in Los Angeles heard about the water crisis and decided that they wanted to do something about it. Together, they pooled all of the money that they had, which amounted to $70, and they used it to purchase jerry cans and water. And it was really simple what they did then. They went out to Hollywood Boulevard and they just started talking to people. They handed out bottles of water to people on the street and told them about the water crisis. They challenged people to walk down to the Gap and back, and people back for the money for the water that they took. And so in one day, they were able to turn that $70 investment into $1,700. After that, a few people from local schools reached out and invited them to speak about the water crisis. Those schools did fundraisers, and in turn, they raised another $12,000 for the water crisis. And so it was at that point that we realized, when they gave us the money to build the water projects, we realized that nobody was activating young people around this issue. And so that's why we decided to found Thirst Project as you're seeing it right now. And essentially what we do is exactly what's happening in this webinar. We travel around the country, around the world, to different Zoom calls in the current environment. And we educate students about the water crisis and what they can do to help end it. It's been amazing since 2008 to see the different creative ways that students around the world have stepped up to take action in their communities, in their global community. It's personally one of my favorite things about the Thirst Project, because not only are we setting out to provide such a basic resource to people around the world to ensure that our communities are more livable places, Thirst Project is also working here at home to build a generation of socially conscious young leaders, people who are globally minded and understand the way that our work has impact. There are 2 things that Thirst Project has felt especially strongly about from the very beginning. And the first thing is that if a student could only give us $1, we wanted to make sure that 100% of that dollar would go directly to funding water projects without the Thirst Project taking any costs or taking any money for overhead costs or administrative expenses. You know, we're talking about the things like salaries, travel, insurance, even Post-it notes for that matter. And the only way that we could guarantee that 100% of public donations went to funding water projects is if we had a separate group of people paying for all the stuff that nobody wants to pay for. And so that's why we decided to build our board. And our board is a group of 17 epic individuals who give insanely large amounts of money, knowing that none of it is going to go to building wells, so that we can ensure you guys, the public donors, that 100% of the money that you give or raise for the Thirst Project goes directly to helping communities that need it the most. And the second thing that we felt really strongly about is that if a student, school, club, community group, church, whoever, raised $12,000 to fully fund a well, we wouldn't just take that money and say, hey, thanks a lot, we'll see you again next year. But instead, we would provide them with the name and details of the community that they were helping. And then 9 to 12 months later, we would report back to them with images, reports, and even a personalized thank you video from the community that they funded. From the pictures, you can see the tangible impact that clean water has on a community. 100% go directly to the drilling, surveying, pumping, and installation that it takes to complete a well project. And on average, a well will supply 500 people with clean water. So when you average that out, you can draw the assumption that by giving $25, you're able to provide a person with clean water for the rest of their life. It's a pretty small amount to provide such a basic resource to someone for the entirety of their life. Most of our support to build water projects doesn't come from Hollywood or celebrities or corporate donors. It comes from people like you, students, clubs, Kiwanis advisors. Since 2008, students have helped us raise enough money to build over 3,000 water projects, providing water for over 400,000 individuals in 13 countries. We like to call ourselves a joyful rebellion because we're rebelling against the people that tell us we can't change the world, that we're too young, too inexperienced, we don't have enough education or enough money, because we're not just trying to change the world, we're proving that we can. We've already had a tangible impact. And a really interesting statistic here is that when Thirst Project was founded in 2008, over 1.1 billion people on our planet didn't have access to clean, safe drinking water. And despite the global increase in population, the number of people now without access to safe, clean drinking water is 600 million. And even though 600 million is still this huge number, that's almost half of what we started out with. And so it just goes to show that we will, without a doubt, be the generation that pushes the water crisis into the history books. And then the last point that I want to make here is that at the Thirst Project, we made a commitment in 2012 to do something that nobody has ever done before. And that's to give the entire Kingdom of Eswatini access to safe, clean water. And if you're not familiar with the Thirst Project already, you're going to hear the name Eswatini thrown around a lot. It's because it's the main country where we work as PNW Key Club and as the Thirst Project as an organization. The first reason why we chose Eswatini is because it's a small country. There's only 1.3 million people who live there. And geographically, it's just a small place. It's a tiny country in Southern Africa. And so we knew that it would be an attainable goal to give the entire country safe, clean drinking water. And the second reason that we chose Eswatini is because it has the single highest density HIV/AIDS population in the world. Over 27% of the adult population in Eswatini has contracted HIV/AIDS. And so the ability to make such a positive public health impact on such a vulnerable population was extremely enticing to us. And it's not just the Kingdom of Eswatini for the sake of Eswatini. When we're finished, it's going to serve as an amazing case study for the United Nations, the current administration, other non-governmental organizations and water organizations around the world. Because when we bring water to a community, we'll be able to prove how water actually gives life. We're going to be able to measure how it increases sanitation, food security, educational opportunities, economic prosperity. We'll be able to use this data to push other water organizations to adopt our model of the complete solution. It's what we call it. So before I move into Q&A and before we move into the rest of this webinar with the District Project Committee, I do want to plug a couple things. First of all, you can find Thirst Project on social media at Thirst Project. We're on a ton of different platforms, but I think Instagram is our most prevalent one. You will not regret following them. The feed is so good. It's very aesthetic, very informative, and they have really good resources that they share on their social media streams. And then also, if you are considering working with the Thirst Project, which you probably are since you're at this webinar, if you haven't already, I encourage you to text THIRST to 97779. Once you text in, you'll get occasional updates from the Thirst Project about things that are going on, new opportunities that they have. And you'll also be able to tune in and get a couple different resources of ways to get involved with them. I encourage you to reach out and text this number to follow Thirst Project on social media, connect with your Lieutenant Governor or the District Project Committee, or me for that matter. I'm a resource as well. Because joining the Thirst Project isn't just joining a water organization, it's about joining a movement to give people resources that they need to live. It's a movement for community development, for education, for women's rights, and ending world hunger. there are so many different things that tie in with what we do at the Thirst Project. So at this point, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I'm gonna move over to Q&A. I don't know how much time, Alyssa, we have. So I'll just answer a few questions and feel free to interrupt me when we need to move on, okay? All right. And also drop my contact information in the chat in case anybody wants to reach out. If you want to have a presentation at your school, or if you just need some additional tips or pointers or resources when it comes to fundraising.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin. So like he said, we're going to be moving into a brief open floor Q&A. So feel free to put your questions in the chat and I will acknowledge them for probably the next 5 minutes. Okay, so Haley asked, what's your favorite thing about the Thirst Project?
I think that my favorite thing about the Thirst Project is probably the way that they have a holistic approach to working with students and working with communities around the world. As I said earlier, not only are we working to end the water crisis, we're also working to educate students and open students to new opportunities here in the US and Canada. And I guess also Portugal. We also have some operations going on in Portugal as well, even though that's not really associated with PNW Key Club. But the way that they inspire thought, the way that they provide resources and opportunities for students like this is something that continues to motivate me to work with the Thirst Project.
Okay, so our next question is, during COVID-19, what are some projects that you would suggest to do to raise money for Thirst Project?
Yeah, I think that fundraising is a little bit of a challenge right now because of the coronavirus and because we're not able to meet in person. And in Washington, restaurants just got shut down again today. So that's kind of out of the picture. I've seen people do some really creative virtual events. One thing that another Thirst Project ambassador, one of our ambassadors, Hannah down in Texas, did is she worked with her church to do a sort of worship night fundraiser where members from her community and from her church were able to come together, hear a service, and learn about the Thirst Project at the same time and how that tied in. And I think she was able to raise about $500 or $600. It may have even been more than that just from that one virtual event. And so obviously not everybody's going to be doing church events, not everybody's going to be doing the same thing like that. But taking that sort of virtual format and thinking about different ways that you can interact with and educate people, sorts of galas. I've seen talent shows happen for Thirst Project and for other fundraisers within Key Club. So getting creative about the ways that you can interact with people online, just like how we've been doing throughout this entire pandemic.
So another question we had, Justin asked, with a club full of new members, what's the best way to approach this project?
So when you're talking with new people about the Thirst Project, I think that the easiest first step you can do is to talk about what the problem is exactly. I think that in Key Club, we have this tendency to throw around different names and programs that we work with. And sometimes it can be really overwhelming for new members because they don't know what a division, because they don't know what decon is, for example. So starting by talking about, the different health risks that are posed by collecting, drinking, and sanitizing with dirty water, and then talking about the Thirst Project in the sense that we are a water organization. We bring water to these communities around the world. And by bringing water to different communities around the world, this is the impact that it has. It helps end hunger. It helps give educational opportunities. It helps give women's rights and economic opportunity to people in these communities. And I think that when you're able to put it in plain terms like that, where people see the cause and the effect, and then they know which organization and who to work with, they're going to be a lot more inclined to go out and try and make that impact.
Yeah, for sure. So our last question of the night will be from Clara. So she says, it's been a challenging year globally and our focus has been placed on the everyday emergencies. How do you suggest meaningfully engaging our students and bringing awareness to this specific need in the world?
Yeah, I think that something that one of our staff members at the Thirst Project, Kellen, has spent a lot of time talking about this year is that people have a lot of different priorities going on right now. A lot of people in our country are experiencing economic hardship. A lot of people are experiencing a whole host of different things here at home. And so I think that as Key Clubs, one of the main things that we can do is to continue to keep that focus on our local communities and addressing the things that are going to be most impactful for our members. However, that doesn't mean that we need to tune out everything else going on within Key Club and everything else going on with things like the Thirst Project. I think that the first step that we can take is to find a time that is quiet or to dedicate a specific meeting to talking about the Thirst Project and educating our members about this project that we work with here in the PNW district. Obviously, if the time isn't right, we encourage you to focus on what is going to be most impactful for your members because we don't want to be tone deaf. And we want to be able to read the room, I guess you could say. But I've found that Thirst Project is an organization that connects really well with young people. It's an organization that's led by millennials and Gen Zers. And that's kind of our whole thing here at Thirst Project. And so I think that you'll find a lot of the members in the club will be receptive to the Thirst Project and what we do, our mission, as long as you find some dedicated time to talk about our cause.
All right. Thank you so much, Justin, for your presentation, and thank you all for your questions. I hope you all gained some valuable information. I will now be moving into the main segment of tonight's webinar to officially announce this year's Thirsty 30 campaign. To start off, some of you may be wondering, what is Thirsty 30? Well, Thirsty 30 is an annual fundraising campaign hosted by PNW Key Club that's meant to unite the district in fundraising for the benefit of Thirst Project. This year's campaign will be held throughout the entire month of January and will mark the third year that as a district we have hosted this campaign. Due to COVID-19 and the virtual environments that many clubs are operating in this year, Thirsty 30 will be promoted heavily on social media. Beginning next Sunday, November 22nd, we will be posting videos every Sunday on the PNW Key Club Instagram account that will be detailing potential fundraisers that you and your clubs can host in support of Thirsty 30 throughout January. We will also be releasing our winter fundraising guide in early December, which will contain Thirsty 30 information and more fundraising ideas for you and your clubs to use. However, this does not mean that you can only take inspiration from this guide. When planning your fundraisers, we encourage you to utilize all published fundraising guides, as they each have different ideas to offer and can serve as a basis for you to create your own ideas. Take this time before Thirsty 30 begins to brainstorm and plan. When the campaign does officially begin, like I mentioned earlier, be sure to keep up on social media. Continuing with the Sunday schedule, we will be releasing weekly Count Up posts, including more fundraiser ideas and ways to participate, as well as highlights of activities from the previous week. If you would like to be featured, be sure to tag at PNW Key Club on Instagram and use hashtag PNWThirsty30 in any posts. When you and your club are ready to make a donation, all you need to do is go to shop.pnwkeyclub.org and select the Thirst Project donation portal. Input the amount you would like to donate, fill in the division and club name information, add the donation to your cart, and check out. I will now hand it off to Division 64 Lieutenant Governor Rosalind Dye to go over some different methods that your clubs can use to participate in Thirsty 30 this year.
Thank you, Alyssa. So organizing Thirsty 30 with your club is actually really easy and a very fun experience. Traditionally, clubs assign fundraising amounts depending on how many people plan to participate in the campaign that year. So each member would draw a number between 1 and up to the total number of participants. This then will be their designated fundraising targets for the 30 days during the campaign. So for example, if you had 20 participating members, then each member would draw a number from 1 to 20 and pledge to raise at least the amount equivalent to the number they drew. However, if your members are up to a bigger challenge, then you can set up higher individual goals. For example, an individual goal could be to raise $30 in the 30 days. It's also helpful to set up club goals, such as raising $300 throughout the month of Thirsty 30, because goal setting can help your club stay on track and provide a simple but unifying means for motivation. And if you're looking for ways to incentivize members to participate, consider arranging competitions between members or other clubs in your division to raise as much money as possible in the 30 days. Winners of the competition can be then offered prizes, such as a $10 gift card to Starbucks or like a shout out to the club's next newsletter or social media post. On the flip side, you can also set up a punishment for officers once a certain dollar amount is raised. So for example, you can have a club officer record an ice bucket challenge after $50 is raised and have the ice bucket challenge be extended to the whole officer board if $300 is raised. Whatever methods, the goal is to fundraise throughout the month of Thirsty 30. So don't be afraid to be creative. And the campaign is very flexible this year. So you can go about it any way you want, plan ahead, do what works for your club, and don't be afraid to pitch in some out of the box ideas. I will now pass it off to Division 9 Lieutenant Governor Haley Smith to begin a walkthrough of this year's fall fundraising guide.
Hi everyone, I will be starting out with the first 3 fundraising ideas listed in our guide. So these ideas are ones that could work really well for any club, so I encourage you to take note. The first is a virtual Thanksgiving party. For this activity, you should meet with your club or your preferred virtual platform, such as Zoom or Google Hangouts. To fundraise, you can charge a small entry fee for participants, hold a miracle minute during the party, or collect donations prior to the party. You can make it a competition if you'd like and use your time together to celebrate your efforts. At the party, you can either bring a meal or just a snack and sit down and chat with your friends about what you're thankful for. Or if you'd like, you can even play a few games such as Kahoot or Among Us. You could also turn it into a service project by making cards or masks to hand out to different people in your community. And another great idea is to host a contest. This could be anything from an art or a poetry contest to a baking or cooking contest, where you would collect entry fees from those wishing to participate. Members could vote and select a winner who would win the prize of your club's choosing. But make sure to promote where all entry fees are going and educate participants about the Thirst Project. The last is a neighborhood cleanup. This would be an awesome opportunity for service hours, as well as you can help people in your community who may need help completing chores such as raking leaves, shoveling snow, or picking up trash in the neighborhood. You can ask neighbors, friends, and family if there are any odd jobs you can complete in exchange for donations to the Thirst Project. Take the opportunity to talk to them about why you're fundraising, and be sure to wear a mask and gloves while staying socially distanced. I will now pass it off to Division 52 Lieutenant Governor Lauren Reed to go over a few more fundraising ideas.
Thank you, Haley. The Fall Fundraising Guide is filled with amazing fundraising ideas to get you inspired and motivated when fundraising. A couple more examples of easy, socially distanced fundraisers include a virtual painting night and a club competition. To start, the virtual painting night is a fundraiser where clubs will use an online platform like Zoom or Google Hangouts to host a fall painting project. You can partner with your school's art teacher or simply gather together to paint. You can include an entry fee for participants in order to fundraise, and you should offer participants a list of supplies that can be generally found at home ahead of time. To add an educational aspect, you can have someone speak about the fundraiser before, during, or after the activity, so the participants know where their money is being donated. Similar to one of our suggested Thirsty 30 methods, hosting a club competition is a great way to encourage more competitive clubs to see who can raise the most amount of money for the Thirst Project. To do this, you will need to rally your members and/or partner up with the other clubs in your division to set up your competition. This fundraiser can be super versatile, as you can use other fundraiser ideas to raise money towards your competition. Additionally, make sure to set goals and celebrate milestones in order to keep participants motivated. Fundraising, of course, is not limited to these ideas, but if your club feels stuck on on coming up with fun and different fundraising ideas, these options are a great place to start. Try not to exceed $10 per person for virtual events in order to be affordable for all. And I will now be passing it over to the Division 13, 15, 17 Lieutenant Governor Angela Trow to talk about the next section of the fundraising guide.
Thanks, Lauren. So as mentioned, in the second to last page of our guide, our committee aims to educate each member in the Pacific Northwest District about our district project, the Thirst Project. We believe that educating students and spreading awareness is the primary way to encourage members to take action, which is a value that Thirst Project also shares. For the remainder of the term, your clubs have the opportunity to hold your own fundraisers for the district project. If you ever need any ideas or inspiration for fundraisers, be sure to check out the seasonal fundraising guides that the District Project Committee releases. You also may be wondering, how much of the donations collected from fundraisers actually go towards helping people get access to clean water? And the answer is 100%. When you donate to the Thirst Project, every dollar of your donation goes directly towards building freshwater wells in the Kingdom of Eswatini. If you are interested in contributing, there's a donate button on page 3 of our fundraising guide that takes you directly to the PNW Key Club shop. You can then purchase our new Thirst Project merchandise or donate directly to the Thirst Project. On page 4 of the guide, we have also included the Thirst Project Virtual Fundraising Ideas list. This list includes a range of different ideas from social media campaigns to challenges and events that you can hold. To access it, you can click the button on the bottom of page 4 to view a PDF of the list. And I will now hand it off to Committee Chair Alyssa Hulsey to discuss our newest merchandise drop.
Thank you so much, Angela. So the District Project Committee recently announced the release of a new round of Thirst Project merchandise, all of which can be purchased via the PNW Key Club shop. We are currently selling hoodies for $40, crew neck sweatshirts for $30, and 5-count sticker bundles for $5. These costs are all inclusive of shipping to the US and Canada, and all profits made will be donated directly to Thirst Project. However, if you would like to further the impact of your donation when purchasing merchandise, you have the option to add an extra $10 donation to your order before checkout to help cover the actual shipping costs. When checking out, be sure to include your division and club name so that we can keep track of orders. Lastly, the shop closes on December 15th, so place your orders today. Before we close out tonight's webinar, I would like to hand it off to Division 48 Lieutenant Governor Audrey Anderson to go over some district project resources.
Hi everyone, there are a lot of important district project resources that I will now take the time to go through. First, the PNW Key Club issue account is where you can find all of our seasonal fundraising guides. You can simply look up PNW Key Club issue and it'll take you right to the page. Next, the PNW Key Club YouTube channel is an important resource where you can find all webinar recordings, as well as Thirst Project well videos. These feature communities that are directly benefiting from our district fundraising efforts, and they're great to share with people who have limited knowledge about the Thirst Project, and you can show them during events and club meetings. Next, both the PNW Key Club website and shop are where you can find information about district events, as well as access the donation portal and a new round of merchandise. The Thirst Project website is also a great resource to learn more about what the Thirst Project is, what they do, and what happens once they build a well. It also has great information about the importance of water and the severity of the global water crisis. For important updates, you should follow the PNW Key Club on Instagram, where all Thirsty 30 promotion and highlights will be found throughout November, December, and January. These are all valuable resources created to help you and your club fundraise and support the district project. Finally, our committee email is project@pnwkeyclub.org. So if you have any questions, feel free to email at any time.
All right, thank you, Audrey. So we are running pretty ahead of schedule tonight. So I will now take the next couple of minutes to answer any questions about anything we've talked about tonight. So again, feel free to leave your questions in chat and I will answer them for you. Okay, so one of our questions is from Justin. What is the best app or program for collecting donations? So I'm assuming you mean collecting donations as a club. I have seen plenty of clubs, at least in my division, have been using apps like Venmo, where you all send your donations to a specific officer, or some cases your lieutenant governor, and that way you can pool all your donations together and have that one person donate all at once. However, if you would like to, if you would like to just have your members donate directly, the best way to do that is to go through the PNW Key Club shop. The only problem with that, not necessarily a problem, but the only restriction with that is that all donations must be at least $5. But I would say that is definitely the best way to go. And if you're trying to pull donations together as a club to keep track of everything, I would just make sure to have everyone who's planning to donate let the officer board know how much they're planning to donate so that you guys can keep track of that way. So another question we have is, what was one of your favorite / most effective fundraisers, and how can it be changed to accommodate restrictions that COVID-19 presents? So I would say probably one of my personal favorite fundraisers has been bake sales. My club does them at least once a year. We partner with our local farmers market, and we go and we just basically sell home baked goods. And that has obviously been a challenge to do due to all the COVID-19 restrictions in our community and basically everywhere. So something that we have done, I have seen a couple of clubs have actually been still partnering with the farmers market. They have just had caps on attendance. They've had lots of mask mandates and keeping everything individually wrapped and separated. But there's also a ton of different ways to go about things like this. I have seen another club, I don't exactly remember where, but they have done something like a virtual banking competition where everyone kind of comes together and bakes some of their favorite treats. And they have kind of an entry fee for those who want to participate in this competition. So not necessarily a bake sale, but something kind of with that theme that people are still able to raise money for the Thirst Project. So I had a private chat message that I wanted to address. So like I mentioned, the merchandise shop does close on December 15th. So it's basically like a pre-order. So everything you order before that date will be sent to you and processed later. So just to be sure, make sure you guys are purchasing everything within this next month because it will close after that date, and then you'll be shipped your merchandise. My guess is about a month later. Orders will arrive in early January. I'll take probably one more question. So if you guys have more, feel free to put them in the chat. Right, so I'm not seeing any more questions, but if you do have them, feel free to email us at our email that I will put in the chat in a second, project@pnwkeyclub.org. We're always open to answering any questions. So with that, I would like to officially close out tonight's webinar. I want to give a huge thank you to each of you who attended tonight, and I hope that each of you now feel equipped to take new ideas, information, and inspiration back to your clubs. I can't wait to see how each of you create and adapt to the unique circumstances during this time, and I'm excited to see you all take initiative in fundraising during the upcoming Thirsty 30 campaign. Keep on spreading the word and help to end the global water crisis. Have a great night, PNW. Thank you all for being here.